day taping. Hey guys, Sam and I are here doing a show during the daylight. The dumbass bosses made him work last night, so we couldn't do our regular taping time and Saturday evening and getting drunk and doing things. But we're going to do the show anyway. I finally get to release the exciting announcement, so we'll talk about that once we get through this intro. We're Almost in Agreement, almostinagreement@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to our website, almostinagreement.com, and check out my Voter Guide 22. My Voter Guide 22 has got all the interviews I've done for each of the candidates. It also breaks it down by which district, what race they're running for, that kind of thing, so that you can figure out who you can vote for and what job they're seeking. It also has KGIS at Knox County Election Commission links, so you can make sure you know which voting district you're in, whether you're registered or not, all those important things, because early voting starts this week. So if you want to get the early voting thing in, you got to make sure you get registered and figure all that stuff out correctly. So major podcast provider, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Like, follow, share, friend, retweet, subscribe, whatever the thing is, and then, physically actually tell your friends about us. That's a good way to help people get to know us and get to find us. So we're almost in agreement, and we're going to start a show. I have my day.
Hey.
Oh, what's the haps, Jax?
Oh, not much.
Oh, okay. So, so the big chunk of news that I've been teasing a gajillion times over and over again was that I have, I'm sold by, I've not sold, I'm renting this room out to others, and as well as my expertise. And I say expertise with the big fat air quotes because I'm certainly not an expert at the bells and whistles and the knobs and the buttons and the whatnots. But I've been talking to the guys at Compass. They'd mentioned the first time I think Scott came on the show, he mentioned that it was something that they wanted to do, but time was an issue and what they format and all that kind of stuff. And so I followed up with them, and they said, hey, I think we're ready to do that. And so we launched Compass Points podcast. Their first episode released, about an hour ago. It's Sunday morning. They're going to come out Sunday morning around 9 o'clock. And it's it's fun. I find it super neat because I get the firsthand accounting of everything going on. But essentially what they're doing is they're doing a look back at last week, top headlines, a little bit more on whatever the top headlines were for last week, an interview portion, and then what's coming up next week. But really for them, they're hoping that the podcast can get big as a invitation for people to become subscribers to their paper. Like it's a marketing effort for them. And so we'll see. It's got potential to do more stuff, but that's the starting point at least.
I think it's to open up a new format. A lot of people want to get on there and see a little short vid,
right?
Instead of we pull up my email and read this,
right?
I can put this on and just kind of listen to it and get the rundown of.
Yeah, I would like to grow it into a daily. I that's what I would like to do, but that's going to involve a whole different animal of stuff. It can't be them. They can't present a daily and do all the reporting they do.
I'm not talking about a daily. I'm talking about their weekly thing that they're doing as is.
Right, but I'm just saying, I would like to do it as a daily. That's exactly what they are doing as a daily, big the news of the day, like a 20-minute, 30-minute show tops that you can get up, listen to it on your way to work or whatever, like that format show. But it's not like stupid morning show Tom and Kelly in the morning or whatever and all the radio stations, but it's actually like a quick down-to-earth. Because I remember for a while there, I subscribed to the NPR's little news break podcast because they redid it as a podcast. Oh. The problem with it is that they republished it every all day, and so if you're listening to actual NPR and they have their top of the hour news break, it's a little 5-minute top news of the world kind of deal.
Yeah, it's almost the same thing. It's almost there's something new.
Right. It's almost the same every hour. But, unless there's something new, then they add and subtract a little bit here and there and here and there. And so every hour they would re-release it. And so I was subscribing to it on podcasts, on my Apple Podcast thing. So every hour I would get a new episode. And it's just it's only a 5-minute episode. I don't know. I'm weird. I'm OCD about stuff like that. It's just I have to listen to it. It's I already listened to this today. Oh, there's a 3 seconds difference because they expand on a new thing that broke in that hour on this one topic, and it's I can't listen to every single one of these all day. Right. I just if they just pick 1 hour, like the 10 o'clock hour, and that's the one they do for the day, or even do it like 3 times a day, like a 9, a noon, and a 4 or something like that.
You
but
think
having
they
it
wouldn't
every hour.
re-release it unless it was something different.
Right, and so that was rough with that thing. But again, I think for the Compass guys, I would love to produce a daily show where it's just a good, quick breakdown, access point for everybody. But something, again, like I said, like 15 to 30 minutes, something that you can listen to with coffee and on your way to work kind of thing, and get a good overview of the day, but still all the in-depth coverage. Like if you really want to know a lot about something, you go into the Compass, that you go subscribe to Compass and get the full in-depth story. Like Jesse was talking about, he had like a 3,000 plus word thing on the sheriff's race that he was working on Wednesday or Thursday. Because I felt bad because I was bothering him because I got all this not technical, but like just all this stuff to set up, like all like the Stitcher account, the Spotify account, the Apple account, our basic podcaster distribution account, or the YouTube channel, all these different things I'm trying to set up, and it's passwords and access and graphics and what font are we using for this, that, and the other. And so like every 15 minutes, I'm like, hey, Jesse, what
about this?
And I mean, and so we got it all through and we got it all done, but they were like, just, their job, and I don't know how you do it, but their job is whatever comes up. And if it's one of those weeks or days that something's going on, they're stuck with it. That's what they got to do.
Right.
And so anyway, we've been big fans of Compass since the beginning, and I'm really excited for them. And I hope this does what they wanted to do, which gives them more, that raises their subscription base. But it gives me a fun. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that I get out of it. Like I'm not charging them much at all about how I would charge it normally. One, because they're guinea pigs for me, and they're willing to go down the rabbit hole and learn and figure out how to do different things with me. But also, I get to sit here with 2 of the more knowledgeable people in town about what's going on around town for a couple hours a week, and then we get to go do this show the day after. And so, basically, I'm really warming this up as like this massive machine where I can lie to you guys and I can just make shit up and be like, Jesse and Scott told me about it yesterday, so you guys are full of shit. Don't question me. I got Jesse and Scott on my side. I can just make it up and you don't know. It validates whatever I have to say.
Prove me wrong.
And so, anyway, like I said, I think there's potential there. I think there's fun, because I mean, again, it's Sunday morning. We usually do Saturday night, but I was watching the Tennessee weekend or whatever, the tiny bit of local coverage stuff that I think it's WATE does. They had Driscoll and Kim Frazier on. And they were doing like, I don't know, stupid shit like what is Scott Becker? Something Becker? Is the anchor, and then this other guy, this weird long-haired hippie dude. And it's like literally like the question was like, it was like, should the sheriffs get paid more, or should the sheriff and their deputies? Should the sheriff's deputies get paid more? Should teachers get paid more? Should somebody else get paid more? And should we raise taxes? Yes or no? And it's like that doesn't tell anybody shit. Yes, cops should get paid more. Yes, teachers should get paid more. Yes, municipal workers should get paid more. No, we don't. No, we shouldn't raise taxes. Well, obviously that's a conflicting answer, but should is not will or will you. Like, I mean, it's not even like if you were on commission, because this is like Commission 11 race or whatever. If you're on commission, would you make efforts to raise wages for X, Y, and Z, especially with the teachers one, because that's such a weird it's such a weird balance, and nobody knows what this new funding model is going to actually be, right. Which we have at least another year, and I believe you and I were arguing about it off air. Is Ron McPherson was telling me that as he understands it, if it gets passed, it will go into place next summer. So this fiscal year this next school year will be the normal BEP formula, but the following one will be where this one kicks in.
All right.
And so, but again, moral of the story is Driscoll and Frazier and even current commissioners, they don't fucking know what the budgeting thing is going to be and what obligations the new state budgeting school stuff is going to do to them, because there's a whole bunch of weird stuff. Like, I mean, but again, talking to Ron about it is like, if everybody that's been digging into it in Knox County schools and their relative counterparts in other school districts that have been on phone calls and on conferences and all this different stuff trying to get up to speed on how this is going to work, if they all understand it correctly, they're talking about a significant raise in state funding for schools.
Yeah. And
there's this fun little old thing and we're assuming it's going to continue, and I can't remember what the what its like stupid little acronym name thing is. But essentially, where is it? I got it in here. Come here. This one. Maintenance of effort rules. And this is a long-standing thing in school district and state funding for schools, is that a school district or county cannot reduce what it is spending in schools as a reaction to a raise in the state spending in their schools. So, basic example is right now, Knox County school budget's around $600,000. State of Tennessee pays like $280 of that currently, somewhere in there. So the county's paying $320.
All right.
If
the state increases,
we
can't decrease.
Right. If the state increases and sends $350, we can't drop to $250 to keep that $600. We have to stay at the $300 plus. So we'd be it'd put us at a $700 plus $1 million budget. It'd add $100 million of budget just because the state added a certain amount, and we can't take any back, basically.
Right.
There's some concern, and I really wasn't quite sure about it, but like as you go further into this new TISA thing, it's mandatory increases. Like it's, like what do they call it? Cost of living raise, basically, like their version of the cost of living raise. There's concern that that's not going to outpace inflation. Mm-hmm. So in the first couple of years, it's going to be a big, huge influx into the systems. But then as time passes, it's actually going to start falling off, and it's going to become an issue 15 years down the road, because it's not going to the input from the state's not going to outpace inflation. So I don't know. We'll see. It seemed I don't know. Ron to me seemed pretty on board on it. Maybe I was misinterpreting Ron's take, but Ron seemed like it was going to be at least he was talking about anywhere. I mean, ballparking like 48 to 50 million. Like he was like, do this. Like he's like, the state has guaranteed $1 billion in new school funding. You divide that across the number of counties equally, and that's 50 million a county. But this is a student-based model, so Knox County has the third most students in this of all the districts. So presumably Knox County is going to get the third most of that $1 billion breakup. So minimum, we're looking at a $50 million increase in school budgets, but probably more than that when this takes effect.
So, what's that $1 billion figure? Because I heard a really kind of a semi-testy exchange between I think he's either a state house or Senate rep from the Nashville area with Penny Schwinn, and she kept talking about this $1 billion. It was a very vague statement. She's like, it almost kind of like she was trying to brush back the question they were trying to ask. Like, well, I'm just excited to get $1 billion more into the the state school system. And he was like, why don't you just stop talking about this $1 billion? Because apparently this was a part of kind of like the previous plan. He was like, when we were talking about this $1 billion figure, he's like, we had no concept of this new system. He was basically just trying to respectfully ask her, like, stop talking about this $1 billion.
I don't know.
When they're more trying to, I guess, like hammer out. I mean, like I said, everyone's confused about this, and they're trying to ask the Penny Schwinn, the state education commissioner.
I mean, again, that's one of those. It comes down to like, I don't know what. Do you remember what bill number it is so we can look it up?
For this new school funding?
Yeah, I'll just do it this way. See if it shows up.
It was when they went back into session, and most people from like the school board or the state school board were getting up and getting ready to like walk away. And then another member decided they had a question, like, "Oh, can we bring him back in here?" Like they were like standing up, getting ready to like walk away, and they're like, "Shit, we got to sit back down and ask more questions." And he's like, I'm sorry. I was just going to ask you about this.
It is House Bill 2143. It is in the House. It is on the Government Operations Committee for 411. So that would be tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that might have been what I saw.
And it's in the Senate Ways and Means Committee calendar for Tuesday.
Taking amendments.
There's a 3 amendments on the House. Well, there's 3 fiscal memos to the amendment in the House version. I don't know. I'm not trying to read all that right now. I was just trying to see what number it was. So it's House Bill 2183 / Senate Bill 2396. I don't know. Again, like I just got really flustered there. So anyway, the point being is like, you know, it was introduced on the 31st of January. Referred to Education Administration, assigned to K through 12 subcommittee, placed in K through 12 subcommittee, placed on calendar, recommended for pass if AM by SC ref to Education Administration, placed on Education Administration, sponsor added, action deferred. Do you think it's deferred, DEF, or defense?
I think deferred. Action
deferred in Education Admin to 4-6, placed on calendar for 4-6. Recommended for pass if AM ref to Government Operations Committee. So it's had like 2 subcommittee votes, and it's now in the Government Operations Subcommittee currently. I'm sorry, the Government Operations Committee, not subcommittee. Similar action on the Senate side. So, I mean, I don't know. More of the story is, have you figured out when this is over? The session?
No.
Because we've been talking about that because it's...
I keep thinking it's over, and they just keep coming back for more.
I don't think it goes very deep into April. I don't think it finishes April. Like I'm guessing. Well, fuck, I don't know, because you can't go straight through April because today's Palm Sunday, Good Friday, Easter Sunday's next Sunday, so they're not going to be working. They're certainly not working on the 18th. That is it's tax day if nothing else. I think they should be working on tax day, but you know.
That's how they get paid.
Yeah. Well, not really. That tax day has nothing to do with them. They should be walking their barrels load of cash that they made somehow inexplicitly to the IRS office. So anyway, I don't know. I don't know when their calendar ends, but I feel like it's not that far out. But I feel like...
Yeah, I've heard him talk a couple times. Like, oh, it's probably the last time we're meeting for this year.
Right, but again, we talked about it before. It's like the problem, the concern being is we have a huge bill like this that is a fundamentally giant shift in the way we look at a certain subsect of what we do in the state of Tennessee. This is a huge change to what we do in the school district. The guy in the 3rd largest school district in the state who handles the money has no idea how this is. Well, that has a small idea of how this is going to impact the 3rd largest school district in the state of Tennessee, and what changes he's going to have to make to deal with what he thinks is going to happen by how it's been explained to him. All that word vomit that I just threw out is getting voted on by our legislature in the next week or 2. Now, I'd be hard pressed to believe that enough members of enough places have any fucking clue what this actually is, what it actually does, how it's actually going to work, to make an informed vote on it as a legislature. I just said I have a hard time believing that with all the other stuff going on, and it's not a slight. It's not. I don't think it's because they're stupid. It's because there's so much other stuff going on. They're so busy doing other stuff, which literally the only way this makes sense is that somebody tells them the correct answer on how to vote on this thing. And whether that somebody is me and you, their constituents, and they take a second to get some phone calls, or they respond to the people that are calling their office or something like that, or a lobbyist or a party operative that's coming in that's like, this is how Republicans are doing this bill. That's the only thing that makes sense to me logically. And it's not a slight on the people, it's just logic. It's how do you not turn to somebody else and go, what am I doing with this? I don't know what this means.
That's when you ask questions.
Yeah. But I just don't see
I hear them talk a lot about where they'll have, whoever the sponsor of the bill will have, meetings outside of it to sit down and talk about the bill.
Right. And maybe with something this large, sure. But I would say
outside of committees, I'm assuming, still being according to sunshine laws or whatever, but
I don't know.
Because I heard him mention, you and I had a good conversation in my office last week about this bill, and you were able to take care of some of my concerns on it. So there's avenues for inquiring and finding out more about the bills. Sometimes they have their assistants like, "Hey, give me a better breakdown of this bill."
Yeah, sometimes. That's the point, though. Sometimes it's like my point is I think this one to me seems so big and complicated. I'll bet you, Mr. Lambert.
Like I said, I'm sure you watch some of the videos. There's some pretty long. Like I think it's a couple weeks ago where the commissioner Penny Schwinn was. I think they were in that meeting like out of session for a good like hour and a half, just going back and forth with questions, bringing in legal. What does this mean? Blah 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 blah. What happens if this happens?
I don't know. Portland, Tennessee. Where's Portland, Tennessee?
Oh, it's cool. Like when you watch it on the show, it'll pull up whenever somebody's talking. It'll pull up a little map and it'll
shows where in the state.
Yeah, tells you what district and what.
I'd be curious
cities.
if Mr. William Landman, part of Sumner County, District 44. Excuse me.
He's kind of a goofy guy.
What's that? Northeast Nashville, Gallatin, Northwest Nashville.
Maybe.
I mean, that's 65 over there. Hendersonville, Gallatin, Oak Grove. Anyway, I'd be curious to know how much Mr. Lambert, how much this has changed from when he introduced it, or how much he knew about it when he introduced it. I'd be curious to know those kind of things. Anywho, that was a fun conversation with Ron, if everybody's not had a chance to listen to it. I like talking to Ron. I didn't get any ESSER information, though. He doesn't know. Hey, pawn that off on somebody else. You deal with this gajillion dollars coming from the federal government and make sure we do it all correctly so we don't get fined and have to pay it back.
Yeah. There's another kind of disputed education bill that's going through. I'm not sure where it's at.
What is it?
It's basically, if there's a failing district or failing schools within a district, I want to say if they have like failing, evaluation for 3 or more years. I guess it's like that Board of Education loses control of the school system.
Oh, yeah, the
like
state board can take it over.
Yeah, the state board, or I think even like the mayor in some cases.
I mean, it's interesting. I don't know.
That was another one where they were trying to break down, well, what kind of like metrics are you looking at?
Well, not just that. It's like, well, yeah, it's like the state is one that makes the metrics and the local doesn't hit the metric. That sucks, I guess. But at the same time, it's like, well, I don't know. Devil's advocate is supposed to be like, we in Knox County think TCAPs suck, and we don't want our kids to go through the stress and bullshit of these TCAPs because we don't think it's an effective measure. So we don't spend time and energy on it. And that is certainly a top metric of this thing. Like, Reiswick comes in, he's like, listen, everybody and their brother knows that these TCAPs are really just a measuring stick for nothing. Like, it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't help the students. It's not helping the teachers. It's not helping the schools themselves. We're not fucking with these TCAPs anymore. Don't care. Right? And institutes a new model, some new metrics that we're using in the school district, some new things that we're figuring out how to make sure we have the kids on the level they're supposed to be and stuff like that. But I don't want to fuck with TCAPs because they're dumb. That would be most likely one of the major metrics they use, and they're going to, state board's going to come in and kick out our school board because we didn't want to do stupid TCAPs. I mean, both sides are right, I guess, theoretically. I mean, TCAPs suck. Nobody cares. Nobody likes them. They're dumb, whatever. But it's very clear in the state, the state who controls the schools says that you have to do these. This is our thing. This is our metric system. You're failing them, so we're kicking you out. So, I mean, I get it. But that's just a off the top of my head example, or potential example.
I want to say I might have read an article. I think it was for this new school funding. That there's a lot of like out of state money that's been pumped into trying to push it. I think I even read that it was some of the same people or people that introduced the Common Core, 10, 15 years ago into the state.
I mean, again, I get the whole charter school argument and the anti-charter school argument and the idea that you have some multi-million-dollar charter school companies that are coming in and lobbying and stuff like that. And that's
you're right. It was. I think it had to do with charter schools, not the whole TISA funding. Sorry.
Well, I mean, that's what I told Ron that in the interview. I was like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that everybody knows that Governor Lee wants to put a voucher system in place, and if it's a student-first model, or if it's a student. Money follows the student model of this new funding thing To me, that just, I mean, it's literally, this is preparation to simplify a voucher process. Because if we decided that, each student in the state is getting X number of dollars from the state, regardless of where they go to school, when we open the voucher thing in, we could just put that X number of dollars wherever the student wants to go. And that's what it seems like to me. This TISA program is step one of like 4 to get us to a voucher program. And the charter schools like that. So the charter schools are coming in and doing whatever. That's my take on it. And, you know, Ron and his not political answer to it was like, well, I don't know. You know, I just know what's in front of me. I'm not worried about what they're doing with that kind of stuff. Yes, I've heard Mr. Lee talk about wanting to go to vouchers, but that's not what I do.
All right.
And again, I made Ron clarify because, again, the most frustrating thing to me when people get all pissy about vouchers is you're taking money out of the schools. And it's like, well, yeah, but you take the kid out, you take the money out in the current formula, and it'll be the same in the next formula. It doesn't matter what you're doing with your kid. If you homeschool your kid, if you send them to private school, if you move to Texas, that takes money out of Knox County schools. So literally, if you're going to play the argument of we don't want vouchers, we don't want it taking money out of school, then you have to complain about people getting new jobs and moving out of state. You should be opposed to that too. Oh, you got a new job and moving to Texas, you're taking money out of our schools, because they are technically.
Okay.
I'm just saying that drives me nuts. It's an inarticulate argument at best. And yes, I understand the premise of it's especially with the current model, it's 20 students have, like, the way the current model is, it's like for first grade, 20 students, the state kicks in 1 teacher for English, 1 thing for this, and a quarter of a nurse or whatever it is. I can't remember. Like that's how the current model goes. And you take 1 kid out of that and you have 19, the state takes all the funding out of that because you don't hit the 20 threshold. It's like, okay, fine. Kids don't come in neat little packages of 20. We deal with what we have. But that, I mean, it's the same thing, though. You take 1 kid out to move to Texas, or you take 1 kid out to put them in a Montessori school. It's the same result for the school system. Whether you're paying out of pocket for the Montessori school or whether you're getting state assistance and paying for it, the same thing happens to that 19, 20 kid first grade class in the current model. And in the new model, it shouldn't be as extreme because each of those 20 kids has a specific number attached to them. And you take 1 out, all of that money except for that 1 kid's worth of money is still there. But according to Ron as well, is that it's not really accurate either, because what it will be is by grade level, whatever the state base is, plus any additional kick-ins for economic, mental, all the different disparity things that the state's going to kick in additional funding for. And that will all just go straight to Knox County schools. It won't go to the school that your kid is in. So my kids, let's say, for example, the state says $5,000. This has nothing to do with county match. No county money in the conversation at all right now. Just state money. My kids are at next year. Well, by the time this kicks in, they'll both be at Bearden Middle by then, I think. Anyway, so it's not that Bearden Middle is going to get $10,000 from the state. Knox County Schools gets $10,000 from the state. And as far as Ron understands it, they don't have to reallocate specifically. So, because one of the things they already do and they want to continue to do, and this goes into how kind of weird this equity in teaching thing that was going on was. Did you follow that at all?
No.
There was a initiative, and it was a Bob Thomas thing from the day he started, of trying to fill in some of the gaps in the disparity in education outcomes. It's equality, or it was like equality or equity in education or something like that was the thing. And it's something they've worked on and they've done a ton of stuff on. And they still do to this day. But apparently there was some new version of it that they were trying to get the school board to vote on, and they refused. And so there's this big back and forth. And a lot of the refusal was, we already do this. What are we reaffirming to do what? Like, this is something that we do. This is in our long-term plan for the schools. We have budgeting for this. This is a thing we're doing. Why are we doing another thing that we're already doing? That was the argument against. but it also makes you look bad because it looks like you don't care if kids get equal treatment in schools. And so it was politics to me more than it was governance. But
I'm assuming there was some kind of change, or else he, as a superintendent, wouldn't ask to implement something that isn't changing anything just to make himself look better. But
no,
it's not out of the realm of possibility. But,
I mean, it wasn't for Thomas. It's like Ebony.
It could have been just cleaning it up, and to where in their mind they're like, yeah, we basically already do this.
Right. It's all like my understanding of it was that all the parts of this particular plan are already in play, and it just puts a fancy title on a thing that's already happening. Nothing necessarily changes, which I guess at the same time is like, why would you vote against it if it doesn't do anything? But there's probably a fiscal note on it that it costs a certain amount. It's going to add a specific thing to oversee something or whatever. But again, all that ranting and raving is just to say that, like, I go back and forth on how I feel about this particular. Is that, very early, my first interview with Virginia Babb, like 2 years ago, she brought this big stack of paperwork with me. It was her fiscal budget for 2022 or 2020, or rather something like that. We were talking about different stuff, and one of the things that popped out to me as I'm looking through it, they had this Ron and his team had put together a breakdown comparing us to other school districts. And one of the things that they do is they look at their per pupil spending by school. And my kids at Rocky Hill, like, again, that budget that year, I think all told, you're looking at a little bit less than $10,000 a kid total, somewhere in there. If you took the whole county and divided it. My kids got like $5,500 per kid at their school. It's like, where's that other $4,000 going? And then that's when I got to talk to these people and learn and understand. It's like, okay, I get that. I get mixed feelings about it. Like, I understand it. I'm not mad about it, but at the same time, I was like, I don't know. How much, if money solves problems, how much better could my kids be doing if they were getting the entire money that the state said that is theirs, which doesn't change in the new model either. That's the kind of the long rant that I was getting to. It's like that part, as far as Ron understands it, at least, doesn't change. It'll be a bulk number that comes into Knox County schools and then gets redistributed as Knox County school pleases. But it should open Knox County schools up to be a little bit more as they please than currently, because the current one is like very like like every 35 middle school age students, you get one teacher and a quarter of a nurse and one social worker, and like it's just a really weird, like,
half a janitor.
Right. And it's like, yeah, it's just really big weird, like, I guess they do it the other way. It's not every 35 students. It's like, for janitors, 92 students. So take your student body divided by 92. That's how many janitors you get. For English teachers, take your student body divided by 30. That's how many English teachers you get. Fucking nurses, take your student body divided by 0. That's how many nurses you get. Because I think the BEP standard had, I want to say it was like 7,500 students. And it's like, that'd be like 5 schools. You'd have to have a nurse jump back and forth between 5 schools a day to cover the model.
That's why a lot of them just have like volunteer nurses.
Right. I think our PTO pays for ours, or pays for, I think the county has ours there 2 days a week, and then we pay her to be there 3 more days a week as a PTO or something like that. I don't remember. It's pretty crazy. But I don't know. That's the big story to me right now as far as things going on, is trying to figure out this TISA thing and what it actually does. And then I don't know. I'm really bummed. That Eddie's quitting.
Yeah. Just
because he's anomalous, not because Janet might be an interesting sub in, to be honest. If I understand her, I don't know her much, but just because he was anomalous. Like, he was not a Republican. He had some Republican values, but he was not a Republican by the current rules of the game, because he did nice things for gays and trans people. Or rather, he didn't let the state, or he refused to vote with the party when the state introduced things that were transphobic, homophobic, overstating what it is, but at least non-trans and homosexually friendly, I guess. I don't know how to word those. I mean, again, the stupid trans sports thing in high school athletics or whatever is such a non-starter, but still, that particular part of that issue for Eddie was like, hey, this is dumb. no, I'm not going to say okay, I'm not going to vote yes to that just because I'm a Republican, and I appreciate that about it, and I'm going to miss that. Not his particulars of the issue, but for the hey, I know as a party member,
I'm not just going to vote party line. I'm going to actually vote how I see this bill.
Right, which to me goes back to where the complaint comes from, and it makes more sense. As much as at the time, which is funny, but at the time I was like, do you think they're trying to steal this election from him because he's gay? Like, I remember having that conversation. And, thinking like, man, that would be...
When all the negative flyers are going out?
Not just the negative flyers, but when you and I sat in and listened to the state executive decision meeting on whether they were going to let his primary hold and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, do you think this whole hullabaloo about his candidacy is because he's gay? And, I talked to a number of different people about it and got a number of different responses. But Eric Wader's probably got... I think Eric Wader was right on it. He's like, no, it had nothing to do with that. It's the fact that he's not a Republican. It's like, well, what does that mean? Because me, I don't really understand the parties and what they're supposed to be and whatnot. But what he's trying to say is he's not going to vote Republican. He's not going to do what the party says he's going to do, which to Eric is a problem. All to me, it's not. To me, it's like, that's a good thing. He's actually going to vote his conscience, and he's going to do his job for me, as my House of Reps member. He's going to do what he thinks is right for me in my neighborhood, not what the party says he's supposed to think is right for me in my neighborhood.
Right.
And so I saw that as a good thing. And again, not to say that I agree with everything Eddie did, because I think there's a number of them that I didn't agree with. I'd have to go back and look because I can't remember exactly what they all are. But, I did get word that he hates that he's semi-pro pot anyway, too. Not pro pot. He's at least anti this cousin of pot banning bill that's 1927 that we've been chugging along about trying to figure out and follow and make phone calls. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I'm bummed about that. I think it's just, again, I haven't met Janet. I don't know Janet Testerman. She is a legacy politician in Knoxville.
Name sounds very familiar.
She's in city council right now. And her dad, I think, was a 2-term mayor of the city back in the 80s, early 90s or something like that. I think the Elaine Davis thing is gross. I don't know Elaine personally either. I haven't met her yet. Actually, I know I've met her, but not talked to her at any length yet. But I think, but I say that where apparently Debbie Hensley, Helsley, I always say her name wrong. Where is it? It's right here. I saw it a second ago. Helsley, who's running for mayor, who at least seems to me to be the most likely candidate for the Democrats to run against Mayor Jacobs. Apparently, she's like treasurer of this county party. Mm-hmm. But I think that's I just find that inappropriate. It's a little different though. Like the Elaine Davis thing at the time.
I know what you're talking about.
Elaine Davis is the vice chair of the Knox County GOP. Okay. So at the time that she pulled her petition to run, Eddie Manis is an incumbent Republican for the seat. That's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Abnormal. That you would have a party executive member running against an incumbent unless you hate the incumbent because he's not a good version of whatever the fuck. Right. Which is obvious is what was happening. But still, I think it's gross. If you have a community member that is in the district that doesn't like Eddie Manis, that wants to run against Eddie Manis, wants to primary him because he thinks he can do better, that's one thing. But your top brass on the party, and as much as they say, I call bullshit, but as much as they say they don't, and this is for both parties, that they don't pick a winner, that they don't have a preference in a primary, that they just push whoever wins the primary, that's bullshit. And we all know it. So if you're going to try to tell me that had Eddie Manis stayed in, that the Knox County GOP was going to stay out of the way while Elaine Davis primaried Eddie Manis, there's no fucking way you're going to get me to believe that, nor anybody else. And that's why I think it's inappropriate. Now, turns out Eddie stepped aside, which is probably why he stepped aside. But, chicken or the egg conversation here, I guess. But, so this is fine. This is less problematic to me that Elaine Davis is now running with a non-incumbent in a primary. That's different. But running against an incumbent is really, especially out of the party, it's just like this is the party at whole, making it very clear that they didn't like Eddie Manis and didn't want him in the seat. And so if you're a Republican in District 18, just know that the party didn't like Eddie Manis, and that's why he's not here anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that sucks because that's me. I chose to put him there. And you're telling me that you don't want him there. And it's like, well, who the fuck are you? You're the party. You're not me and my neighbors. And we put him there. So respect that and at least stay out of the way. But no, they're pushing Elaine Davis on it. And then, Manis quits because he's smart enough.
Yeah. Sure, it's basically like, you can run, but we're not going to back you.
Well, I mean, but again, by I don't know if it's by bylaws or whatever, but at least traditionally speaking, the parties don't get involved in primaries at all. They wait until there is a candidate selected, and then they back that candidate for the general. Because all the party, quote, cares about is whichever Republican beats the Democrat. That's all the party wants. Except when the Republican isn't Republican enough. But they don't, I call bullshit on that anyway. They have favorites. They absolutely do. They have favorites. They have ones that they support more than others in primary, even though they say they don't. I just think it's a normal occurrence and stuff. Anyway, so what else is going on? That was the big news for me. Eddie Manis and the school funding. I had Nick Cipero earlier this week. Mm-hmm. He's a fun talk. I think he might be a little crazy.
Running for county?
Yeah, he's
commission.
He's there. Apparently, where he lives personally is one of the few places in county where both the city district and the county district have the same number. He is in City 3, County 3.
Huh. It's much easier to remember.
What's your county? Your City 1.
No, don't have my card with me.
I think your he might be county. I don't know. But I did hear that some court rejected the Tennessee State Senate redistricting.
Yeah.
The House one's passed, so suck it, Gloria. 90's real. It's happening. But our Senate one didn't change at all locally, but apparently
I think there was a couple different recent rulings on the Democratic, or on the Senate GOP redistricting.
Yeah. Judge blocks Tennessee State Senate redistricting plan. The Tennessean. It's from Wednesday or Thursday of this week. Pop-up, suck it. A 3-judge panel on Wednesday blocked the Tennessee General Assembly from enforcing new redistricting plans in the state Senate, ordering the body to fix issues within 15 days. I did see somewhere in one of these that it pushed back the it then pushed back the petition deadline.
I think it might be this article. Yeah, it said it gave them 1 or 2 weeks to figure it out.
Yeah,
because they know it's pushing up to...
Right, so the panel extending the filing deadline for potential state Senate candidates from April 7th to May 5th, so a whole month. I mean, the primary for them is in August, so that's still plenty of time.
Yeah.
I mean, no, it's not, but...
I think it's mainly just Senate districts around Nashville. They're saying was unfairly split up.
Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally said leadership had been advised that the map would withstand constitutional challenge, as there was precedent for non-consecutive numbering. I don't know. It'd be nice if this article had a map of what we're looking at here. Anyway, fun stuff there.
Ain't it though?
What else we got?
Lee was in town a couple days ago.
He was. He was on Friday. He was in on Friday. He had a luncheon. Scott was late for our thing because he was there. But I think I'm going to take. I made a kind of a basic trailer for their show, and I'm going to stick it in this episode after we're done, just so people could check it out. Because one of the things that they do, they have a very they have a beat. Like Scott works XYZ, Jesse works ABC. Mm-hmm. Sometimes because scheduling between themselves and or different committees and bodies and stuff like that, they'll help each other out in their subset. But if it is a UT issue, it's Scott. And it's because that's why I made this. We were finishing up, I was like, hey, maybe we should do this real quick, and I had them each do an individual of just a hi, my name is, and these are the things that I cover. Because I think for us, the listener on their show specifically, it's a little awkward because I don't know, you don't necessarily know that, And so it's like, why is he always talking about this, or he always talking about that, or oh, here's the what's the story on this thing? I want to email the question because they they're like, hey, email us it or whatever, just to help people understand who's kind of the top of the food chain on that subset of reporting.
Where the strong points are.
Yeah.
I'd say each one probably has better contacts in certain areas, or better rapport with.
Yeah, so like I think Scott was city, state, UT, planning commission, are kind of Scott's stuff, and there's county, sheriff's department. I can't remember what all. Jesse does more of the business news side of stuff, so the more like when you get into, so like the register of deeds and all the different,
administrative.
Right. Well, that and like the city, state, county involvement in like an Amazon plan or something like that. Like all those different things are kind of where his subbeat is. So anyway, I'm super stoked. I'm excited about it. This first episode's good. It's not great. It's not great. It's the first episode. We're all trying to figure out exactly what we're doing.
Gotta get past that one little stumbling block.
Well,
Then it'll go smooth.
Yeah, it's not. But I have one new camera coming today, and if I could pull it off, I'm going to try to do 3, which is going to be a lot more work for me. But
you try to have 3 cameras running.
Yeah, so I'll have a room camera that has the both of them sitting next to each other. Because that was the most awkward thing to me. Like my biggest disappointment in it, I think the sound's okay. I think the video quality is okay. But I know I knew that was going to be a shortcoming because I don't have good cameras. I knew that was going to be a shortcoming. So for the situation, the video quality is okay, but the seating arrangement sucks because it's supposed to be conversational, and so they're talking to each other, but I can't let them look at each other while they're talking because then from the camera angle, you just see the side of their head and it looks weird.
Right.
But it felt weird when they were looking towards me and the camera talking to each other. And so we're trying to figure out that part of it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to turn it so they can actually face each other. And then I'll have a camera over each of their opposite shoulders. So I could have it while Jesse's talking, I can have camera on him. While Scott's talking, I'll flip over to that camera. And then for different portions, I'll back it up and let it be the room camera, but they're going to be facing each other. But for the most part, I'm going to try to get it so while whomever is talking, their camera is on. So you see their full face, even though they're looking not quite into camera. They're looking right to the left or right of the camera. I think that'll be more engaging for the viewer. But at that same time, for them, they really care more about the audio element, the podcast element, than they do. And like the editing and stuff like that, I thought I was going to struggle with a little bit more. It was going to be a little bit more intensive. I think I'm okay at it, and I've got plenty to learn, but, kind of cool. Like some of the features of the program I bought for it are kind of cool, and I can get some good transitions in and out of sections. So it's not like I actually have bumpers, and like the next step will be doing like bumper tiles instead of just a bumper. We talked about doing chyrons just for fun.
Chyrons? I know I've heard that word.
Do you know what it is?
No.
Chyrons, like when you're on CNN or whatever, and that's either the sidebar that's got like a lot of times it's like stocks and stuff on the side, and then it's the top headline scrolling across the bottom. There's who was it? There was somebody that did a comedy sketch about it that was fucking hilarious. Like it was like a 2-minute sketch, and as the sketch continued, there were more chyrons added until like you couldn't see the person's, like it's the newscaster.
Yeah, I think I've seen those kind of
it's just making fun of how much crap they put on the screens.
Because it didn't used to be there, yeah, and then some add in a hell of a lot more. Like you watch, like you're saying, with especially like stock tickers, like any kind of like Fox Business, MSNBC Business, or whatever.
Right, like they have
got so much more.
Right,
it's like here's the NASDAQ, here's the S&P, here's the European markets, here's the Asian markets.
Well, here's here's
your local weather.
Here's your Fed bonds. Here's weather. Here's top headlines.
9/11. I was telling somebody the other day. I was like, remember, post like 9/11. We had this shit going on for like 2 years. We had like orange days and yellow days.
I mean, we have them right now. What are you talking about?
Huh?
The CDC has the same exact format for COVID stuff right now.
Yeah, they're not blasting it every day when you turn the news.
Not like that. But because I think I don't know. I doubt it. I think they didn't. I was going to say I think they realized that
most of the numbers have gone down. I think they're getting ready to go back up, but it's neither here nor there. We'll see.
Yeah, there's some new sub-Omicron variant.
Yeah, I think I just saw that yesterday.
And then we've got, this is like, forget the health aspect of it, just for conversation right now, just forget about the health side of it. We have some serious economic problems that we're staring down the barrel of right now. Some serious economic issues. Because
statewide, federally?
Worldwide. The whole shebang.
Yeah.
Because China's been shutting down. They're apparently trying to follow some zero count.
That's pretty much been their plan. It's just like test the shit out of everybody.
You know, so you have what's like Shenyang province or something like that, which is where like 90% of Chinese manufacturing comes out of.
That's where they get all that maple syrup
It's just
from.
it's just a giant factory. It's just factory after factory after factory, assembly plant.
Industrial area.
And like they're locking people in their houses. Like physically restraining them in their houses, not letting them leave their homes and stuff like that. And it's like, that sucks. The humanitarian issues and all the other kind of issues involved with that sucks. But we're not talking about the health part of it. We're talking about just economics. Like,
yeah, I was reading about
this is. I mean, that's
like
where all this comes from.
Kids getting split up.
You know, any electronics, like almost all consumer electronics coming out of that region. So your cell phones, our vape supplies. All the sound gear and stuff are probably assembled or at least component assembled there before they get shipped off somewhere else to be fully assembled and shit like that. While we're running into global logistics issues, while we're running into huge inflation here in the States, while we're running into this crazy-ass labor market, which that's another one we can talk about, the Amazon in New York thing. That's a pretty interesting story. But we've got a unionized Starbucks here in town. Like the crazy-ass labor market, crazy-ass logistics market, huge inflation, all kind of piling up, and the Fed is starting to raise rates right now. And the Fed is trying to offload some of their assets. So one of the things I learned this recently, like Federal Reserve as a economy stabilizer, when shit gets weird, like a pandemic, they'll go and buy bonds that you and I would normally be whether it's like a mutual fund or some of these other fiduciaries where people are investing to save long term or whatever, and then they turn around and they'll buy like treasury bonds or they'll buy different bonds from the U.S. government or other places as a means to store wealth, right? And so when the economy gets weird and when shit starts happening, a lot of these fiduciaries and individuals will start offloading those because they get a little bit less consistent over time. And so one of the things that the Fed has started doing as one of their tools to help the economy is they'll be the ones to buy them. And so when they start buying them, that keeps individuals and fiduciaries from selling off because it helps them. If the Fed's buying them, the store value is better.
Maintain that value. Okay.
Right. And so pre-pandemic, the Fed bought like $1 trillion worth of bonds and other assets. And now they're trying to unload them. And so it's already happening. I don't quite understand the whole thing, but essentially, prior to every major U.S. recession, there has been what they call an inverse of the bond market, where short-term bonds start having better yields than long-term. And so investors aren't buying long-term bonds. So anyway, when this inversion happens, it's usually one of the signals. But if the bonds sell, or if the Fed is selling off their bonds too, it's going to inflate and make that inversion worse, which doesn't necessarily indicate that the recession will be worse, but that the recession is still coming. And so we're running into a recession. We're running into a crazy labor market. And so it's a weird time. Like this whole economy thing is kind of I want to quit my job so bad.
It's all Biden's fault though.
I mean, it's not Biden's fault, but it's not exclusively Biden's fault either. Like some of his oil strategy stuff has been problematic and not helped, but at the end of the day, it's not all of it. And some of the pipeline stuff, and I think he took way longer than he needed to open the strategic reserves, given the situation. And I mean, I just don't understand. I don't follow that part of it. It's an option. You can put it there. Gas prices are through the roof on top of other inflation. You could have opened this up a lot sooner and at least helped general Americans out sooner. But I mean, but to his credit, I suppose, he kind of ran on some greenish stuff.
I don't think gas prices were up, hardcore for more than like 2 or 3 weeks before he announced the release of oil reserves.
Yeah, but with the issue starting in Ukraine and Russia like that, everybody saw it coming. Like everybody was like, gas prices are going to go up really fast, really hard off of this, and he could have reacted sooner and more definitely like, boom, here it is. But again, not all of it's his fault, and none of it's his fault either. Is what I'm getting at. Like, plenty of this is leftovers from the Clinton administration and beyond. Like, this is long-term mismanagement of this whole shebang that leads to things like this. We have some of Trump's tax incentives issues and stuff like that, like the housing market being what it is, being another one to add on to the pile. Like, I don't know how. Like, I need to get an economist who actually knows what the fuck they're talking about to come and help me understand things. But I mean, realistically, that's what we spent like half the show last week talking about housing market stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like everyday Americans, like, there's hope. Like, I'm not a labor. I'm not a big union person. I don't like. Generally, I don't hate unions. I don't think they shouldn't exist, but I think they're in some places they're like in some industries they've outlived their necessities, and it's now becoming a damaging effect. But the premise of a union is not a bad thing to me, and so like this unionization of Starbucks, I think is fucking hilarious. I don't get that one. Unionization of the Amazon warehouses, I get that one, and I support the premise of that. I'm going to be pissy when my stuff I buy from Amazon goes up in price, but I support the premise of that because some of the shit that Amazon's doing is not okay. And apparently the government's not going to make an issue of it. And there's not enough other work out there, generally speaking, for people to just be like, I'm not doing this anymore. So I'm good with that one. Like, I don't oppose that one. The Starbucks one I think is fucking hilarious. Like, I don't know. You're a fucking, you make coffee. Come on now.
Well, some of those workers are like, we know how much we're charging for this coffee and how much you guys are paying us.
I mean, yeah, that's fine. But again, okay, so help me out. I mean,
I don't know what the whole Starbucks worker grievances was. Because I think for years they've had decent benefits. I think they were one of the few kind of like bigger companies that had like education not stipends, but they had education funds.
I mean, the premise that I understood, the premises I'd heard about at least was that like essentially, the values that Starbucks tries to outwardly portray in marketing is not how they treat their staff. Like, oh, we're stewards of the planet. We care about people. We care about social issues. Fuck our employees. That's kind of what the main grievance on that one is. And again, I don't care. Fine, unionize. Especially here in Knoxville, the one in Merchants. My bet on it, my prediction is what Amazon's going to do is take their sweet ass time in bargaining, and probably half the staff.
I think the Amazon one. They're
not the Amazon one. I'm sorry, the Starbucks one.
Okay.
The Starbucks one here in Knoxville. If this union actually gets in place, they're going to shut that one down. I would. There's like 200 fucking Starbucks in Knoxville.
Yeah, I've heard about like other stores where all of a sudden like the people that voted to union, like their hours got cut or they were just bringing in more new people.
Yeah, which is shitty, and it's against labor board stuff and stuff like that, and I'm not a fan of it. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I don't care. I don't care if Starbucks survives a union drive. Yeah. Like I don't give a shit. I don't buy Starbucks. I don't get it. AC's gonna be pissed. He might die if Starbucks goes out of business, or if they reduce the number. So I mean, like literally, like I'm trying to think about it. Like I run around grocery stores. I can't think of. I'm not sure how many grocery stores that I go into that don't have one. I'm trying to think of ones that don't have one, not ones that do.
All right.
Like almost all of my stores I go into have a Starbucks in them. And the one that unionized is a standalone up there on Merchants. There's another standalone on Emory.
But I think some of the grocery store ones aren't really technically Starbucks.
It's like a franchise,
weird, like half franchise.
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure because I think they're employees of the grocery store.
Because they don't have like all the stuff that most Starbucks have.
Right, and I think technically
they wear the emblem, but I think they still work for like the individual grocery stores. I think technically
they work for Ingles or Kroger or whatever. Not right. Yeah, it's weird.
They're just working in the coffee department.
Yeah, it's a weird little relationship. They get it's genius on Starbucks' part because they get their branding out and they get I'm sure it helps them sell like, their K-cups in the coffee aisle and shit like that too. It's like, ooh, this is good. I
that smells good. Let me get some of that.
Yeah.
But I think the New York Amazon one is going back. I guess somehow Amazon requested there be another vote.
They were contesting a couple of them or something like that. Yeah.
They thought there was some foul play involved.
Well, and again, I think
the people that are voting for it, that they're passed on it. It's usually the main company that they're suspecting foul play on.
I mean, I think Amazon's going to play the game of trying to drag it out as long as possible before they agree to any of their stuff. And the problem is, and this goes back to what we were just talking about, like in the overall discussion, the problem here is that Amazon right now is a little bit less strength in the conversation because at the end of the day, a lot of those workers could quit and go find another job because everybody's looking for workers right now. This recession comes along. It's coming. It is coming. And the labor market tightens up and there's not as many jobs available. That takes the legs out of this union movement on a lot of levels. Because fuck it, I'm out of here, I'll go work something else. We'll strike and you can fire me, whatever. I can go get a job. That part goes away. That loses some of the power that those trying to unionize have in the conversation. So, again, I'm not opposed to it. I just think it's in the big picture of everything going on. It's going to be. I'm concerned of the future that we are looking at.
There's a lot of crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, but I think there's always a lot of crazy stuff going on. I'm like, I don't know. Like I said, I want to quit my day job so bad, but it's one of the more recession-proof industries. So I'm going to hold on to it for a little while.
That's very true.
I mean, it just is. Like, the world sucks right now. Alcohol sales are good. Don't worry. Alcohol sales will be just fine. So
vice markets stay pretty steady.
Yeah.
In times of distress.
Right. And if anything, they go up in times of distress, not down.
Right.
So yeah, I'm concerned about that. We were talking off air. We talked a little bit about it last week. This whole developer, this political argument that's going on right now in commission races about developers and developer-friendly commissioners and shit like that. I truly think is probably the real conversation and the top priority conversation to have in your decision to vote on a decision of who to vote for in your district or countywide. Because again, I'm thinking the Driscoll-Fraser conversation because I was watching that on TV earlier. But I really, really do. I think that is going to be the chief issue that we're looking at as a community, as a county, because housing's an issue. Housing's a problem, and I don't know how else to deal with it other than development.
Yeah, but I wonder how many people that are actually already living somewhere, which makes them already constituents, are really worried about the housing market. Or if it's more so people wanting to move here that are worried about the availability of housing.
Well, I mean,
yes, you get people that have houses that are like, hey, I always want to maybe upgrade or downgrade, and I can't find a house. Well, you have a couple
things, too, and I think we have an interesting timing thing, too, because right now the reassessments are coming out. I've been checking my mail to see if it's shown up yet, too. But the reassessments are going out right now, which I find is an interesting timing of it, right in the middle of an election cycle. That these reassessments are coming out, and how that's going to change, and it's a weird, complicated.
Is it a yearly thing they do, or?
Well, essentially, it's. I think it's every 4 to 5 years or something like that. There's a state number that you have to do or whatever. But it has huge implications on our tax base,
right.
And you're in a housing market like we're in right now, where, let's be honest, everything's overvalued.
Yeah.
Well, I think I paid $145 for this house. Took some equity out, did some other stuff. Blah, blah, blah. I think my current loan's like $175 or something like that. At least Zillow, which Zillow's not accurate, I know, but at least my Zillow value is like $250. If I get assessed at $250, and so my property tax rate jumps by a third, essentially. If that happens, but it's more complicated than that. It's like, I think what it is like the whole, once reassessment's done, you don't have to pay more in taxes if you're under 40% of the average. So if the average of the county goes up by 40%, your taxes stay the same.
Makes sense.
Essentially, unless your value jumped beyond that 40% average.
Right.
And then you pay the difference, not the total. So if yours jumped 50% and the average is 40%, you only pay a 10% difference. Yeah. But nonetheless, it's going to go up in value, or my house is going to go up in value. I don't know how it's going to affect my taxes.
Right.
But we're doing that in a cycle while people are arguing about housing and taxes at the same time. You know, because it's like, are you going to raise taxes? Are you going to vote to raise taxes if that comes up? Are you going to pay teachers more? Are you going to let developers come in here and build wherever they want? Like, these are all the questions that are going on and stuff. And it's like, we have an assessment going on right now that's going to change that conversation right in the middle of an election, which I think is a little weird. But again, at the end of the day, how do we do it? Like, how do we get housing? How do we get affordable housing? Like, I love the conversation. I like the idea, but how do we get it? And I think the only way, I don't know, maybe I'm a capitalist asshole, but the only way it makes sense to me is you satiate the top section and they vacate their way up. People vacate their way up because nobody's going to build 1,000 square foot single family home on a quarter acre of land. Nobody's going to build that. Why would you? But those are starter houses, like the pink house that we used to live in on Lawson. That's a starter house. That's the kind of house that's old, it's beat up, right, that a couple or something like that buys, or even an individual buys, because an individual could afford that house theoretically, that they buy and they live in and they do some work on and they do whatever for a couple of years, and they sell that house to get the bigger house, and then they sell that house to get the bigger house.
Right.
That's what a starter home's supposed to be, but nobody builds starter homes. And why would you, as a developer, build starter homes? And so the only way to do it is to get people out of their starter homes by making the next tier available to them, so that then the starter homes are available around. Now, the real problem is that starter homes are getting bought up and rented. That's the real problem. I don't know the solution to that one, because I would like to be that person. I would like to own a few of those starter homes and rent them out personally. That's a good investment long term for me and my family. It's a good way to preserve wealth and have what they call what's the word? Passive income. Don't necessarily have to do much, but I have some money coming in.
Right.
You know, it's a good method for an individual to generate wealth within their household and their family, as well as it's a long-term investment. It's good passive income, all those kind of things. It's a good strategy for life to have a few properties like that. But, you know, again, to me, that's the only way it happens. Like, I saw there's one out in East Knoxville right now. It's like $45,000. And like, there's half the floors missing and all sorts of fucked up shit. It's like, that should be like a $10,000 house. It's $45,000. It's like, I don't think you could legally put a tenant in that house. I don't know if you could live in it yourself if you were the owner in the state that house is in, but it's $45,000.
It's like, yeah, you own it, but you have to fix all this before you can.
Right. This is a condemned home.
Before it's a livable habitat.
Yeah. You know, so it's a weird situation, and I don't know the solution on that, other than a special tax bracket, like we were talking about a couple weeks ago. A special tax bracket for rental income, and make it really less appealing, not unappealing, just much less appealing for doing investment properties. Because then you keep people. The problem with that is you keep people like me, who could maybe get a couple of houses and rent them, and actually probably be a decent landlord, out of the market. And then you take that, makes it, you know, easier, not easier, but that, like a big company who was doing rental properties, because they can get away with it because they don't need to make as much off of each of one to make it worth it to them. Their insurance covers multiple properties, all the different stuff. So it's cheaper for them to operate. And so they're better off, not better off, but they're not as damaged by a special tax as an individual owning a home and renting it would be. So I don't know. It's a weird spot. I don't know what the solution is. But I certainly think that part of the solution is to continue to raise general inventory. I think that's the only solution we can really have. That, or something to hit the brakes on growth in Knox County. And nobody wants that.
I mean, I would say start with just kind of, most do for most, like a lot of low income housing, they either do, you know, a bunch of kind of smaller starter homes or a larger kind of decent apartment complex.
Yeah, but again, how do
I think that's where you kind of have to start. Like you said, you don't have those starter homes. You don't have that place for anybody to start. I think I was reading an article saying there's a lot of millennials that are looking for those starter homes. So I guess I didn't realize how big of a population the millennials are. But a lot of people, just getting out of high school, just getting out of college, they don't want to be those people that are still living with their parents. They want to get out and kind of start their lives.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like it's you play the fun budget games. It's the old rule of thumb at least was 20 to 25% of your income is what you should have available for housing. So, realistically, a decent one bedroom as we've looked around, has been $800 to $1,200. Yeah. So you need to make it $4,000 a month. That's about, if that's an hourly wage, it's a $20+ an hour job. But take home, it's got to be take home money too. It's not pre-tax. It's got to be your take home money.
Right.
So on $1,000 in rent, you need to be taking home $4,000 plus a month, maybe $4,000 to $5,000 a month, which means you need to be to $20 to $22 an hour range. And that's just, I don't know. That's the other thing too. I think is like we don't have those jobs anymore. What jobs are those?
Right.
Truck driver, maybe. Some factory work, maybe in the mid-20s. Like I think FedEx, UPS pays pretty good, somewhere in that range. I think our drivers get the mid-20s, mid-lower 20s. That's that ain't even right either. Hold on a second. Making $20 an hour, 40 hours a week, it's $800 a week. Yeah, that's not even enough either. It's got 25+ an hour to hit that margin. And so, like, I don't know. I think that's the key window there that I think that's part of the puzzle that's missing, that we don't know, that nobody knows how to fix, is those middle income jobs. Like, what do you do? Like, what's the job in the $25 to $35 an hour range?
Right.
Like, what jobs are those? Like, do they exist? Am I making things up? Like, I don't know.
I'd say that there's some like manufacturing jobs that if you've been there probably 3 to 5 years, you may have worked your way up to that.
Yeah. But but again, that goes into the whole, like, how many manufacturing jobs, not statewide, like how many manufacturing jobs do we still have in this country compared to what we had 50 years ago? And I think that's
moved into different industries.
Yeah, but
we've had Denso here in town for years.
Yeah, you got Smith & Wesson coming. That's going to help.
Yeah.
But Alcoa's got rebought, and they don't do anything as much there as they used to do. But again, like, so the easy one is like New Sentinel puts out their annual like top jobs.
Right.
Their top jobs thing, like the biggest employer. Who's the biggest employer in Knox County?
UT.
Knox County. I believe by job numbers, Knox County is the largest employer. UT second. I think that's a problem. I think it's a problem because just think about it, money-wise. The number one employer is tax-funded. That's a problem to me. But what says a good thing too is that we don't have like a.
It just goes to show you that it takes a lot of people to run a city.
Sure, but
like UT, that's not exclusively just education. I mean, you've got.
It's a city in and of itself. I mean, when you want to break it down, it's a city in and of itself. But I think, right. and to be fair, really, let's see what that means.
The city, you've got everything from parks to the mayor to
right. And honestly, I guess in fairness, what that actually means is that we don't have one giant ass company in this town. We don't have a Ford plant or something like that employs 15,000 people or 20,000 people.
Shut down. I mean,
the
city's always going to be here.
Right. And so I guess in some ways it could be construed as a good thing. And then we have a big number of smaller businesses, so that if one fails, it's not going to shut us down as a locale. So I guess I don't fully rescind. I still think that's a problem, but I don't fully rescind that, or I semi-rescind that as being a problem. But again, we don't have, I can't, like, we have a lot of cool stuff. We have a lot of good small businesses. As much as people like to hate Randy, the whole radio systems thing is a pretty sweet little company and does really well and employs a good number of people with their products. I don't know what they do here. I think it's just corporate offices. I don't think they manufacture here.
Radio Systems?
Yeah, I think that's what it's called, Radio Systems, the invisible fence.
Yeah. I think it's mainly just like pet collars and stuff.
Yeah, but I don't think they manufacture it here. I think that's just their offices and sales headquarters and stuff like that. I don't think they're actually assembling shock collars in that building over there.
Well, they get a lot of big trucks coming in and out of there.
Maybe. I don't know the answer to that, but I'm guessing it's not, but I digress. Again,
I saw a bunch of their packages kind of going in and out.
Because they're on
I'd see them on the UPS truck. I'm like, what is all this shit? Oh, it's for radio systems.
Yeah. But again, I don't know. I guess that's the question I have. It's like, what do we do? How do we grow that section of our economy to get that middle ground functional? So
Building up small and medium businesses.
Yeah. Stuff that employs people and pays in the $25 to $50 an hour range. What's 25? What's the math on that? $25 an hour. Calculator. 25 times 40. That's $120,000 a year. $25 an hour. So it's good income, not huge. I mean, that's what's crazy. It's like 6 figures is not huge income anymore.
Yeah.
But $120,000 a year is good money, like good solid money. Like, where do those jobs go? Like, what are those jobs? Because I feel like those jobs, like, I want to say I was looking at some listings and stuff like that, and it was like accounts payable manager for some company around here. It's like 85. And that's a professional job, that's professional. You got to wear a tie and shit kind of job. And it's 85. It's under the bracket that we're talking about. That's the weird thing that I can't figure out. Like how we get like
that's not even like their median position. That's the manager of those.
Right. Yeah. So So what's the actual guy what's the grunt in that hierarchy getting paid? But again, like 85 a year is it's not bad.
Right.
It's pretty decent, but in the general, 85 a year. I just put my calculator away. I should have done it. 85 a year is $7,000 a month, about $1,700 a week. If you're working a 40-hour week, that's $44 an hour. What did I just do? I just did some funky math.
I don't know what kind of math you're doing. There's 52 weeks in a year.
Well, I did month, week, and so it's going to be a little bit high. But how did I get to 120? $85,000 divided by 52 weeks divided by 4 hours is $40 an hour.
Well, how'd you get 120 out of $25 an hour?
Yeah, I didn't. I did it wrong. It's $52,000 a year. Duh. You know what? It's in the morning and I'm sober. What do you want from me, people?
I've seen a couple. I remember seeing articles in the past couple of years. There's some countries have pushed. I think Iceland just did like a big 1-year study on a 4-day work week. We're talking about there's a lot of companies that kind of experimented that with COVID, with a lot of people doing remote. And so people actually liking that. They've actually found it. I think in Iceland, like 80% of the businesses that tried it out ended up sticking with it. Everybody's like, dude, we love this. Like, I'll work 4 10s in a week and have an extra day off. I
would be done with that. See, I don't know.
They're saying like a lot of restaurants have thought about trying it in the U.S.
I would. I mean, it just depends on on the business too, and whether that's a functional time frame and stuff like that. I would be happy to offer that to you guys if we could figure out how to schedule that functionally. I would be fine with that. I have no issues with that. It's because I guess to me
in our business it wouldn't work as much.
It could, but the implication to me was always it was a 30-something hour work week instead of a 40-hour work week.
Yeah, no.
Now, if it's
I'm sure there's both in there,
right? But I'm just saying, like my understanding of it was of testing a 4-hour or 4-day work week was a 4 9 to 5, like 4 9 to 5s instead of 5 9 to 5s.
I'm sure, like you said, like depending on the business, they may be able to pull that off. If you're just if you're an accounting firm and you're just crunching numbers, and you can outside of tax season, you could probably do 4 8-hour shifts.
Right, and again, like I said, I think there's obviously it's complicated and there's a lot of factors at play and blah blah blah. But I think realistically, I think there is an inertia problem that this is how it is, and because of some of the systems in place, both legally, governmentally, politically, whatever, as well as strategically, it is generally there is a lot of resistance to try to do things differently. I think that's one of the problems we have as a nation. Like, it's not okay. It's like
I mean, it's a general kind of human thing as well.
right. But we built this, we built some of the greatest.
We've been doing it. It's the way we're okay with. It's what we're comfortable with.
Right. But, it's again, we talked about it a couple weeks ago with the other stuff. It's the innovator's dilemma. It's like you get stuck and you can't get out. And it's like, well, we need to figure out a way to encourage a little bit more
it wasn't really
experimentation. Because like this 9 to 5 thing is just, it was an experiment that stuck. It wasn't that it worked best. It's just, that's what we did.
Right,
and then the union pushed back.
Like 5-day work week was, I think Henry Ford he's kind of been promoted as being one person that pushed that for his factories.
Right, but one of that against a 7-day or whatever, but that, and then he was
6-day.
He's been credited with the quote of "You pay your employees enough to buy your product."
Yeah. Makes sense.
That's one of his quotes too. It's like you can't price your product out of what you pay your employees, because especially when you're a huge manufacturer like he was, it's like, I'm not going to sell cars if my employees can't buy cars.
Right.
And so but I don't think that, again, that's a very niche version of it, but I think that's a thing too. It's like, how do you balance that to make what you're producing attainable for your employees?
Yeah, I think that's why in manufacturing there has been that push to make things just kind of cheaper.
Yeah.
And faster.
I did see that, was it Honda and Chevy maybe are partnering up with, and they're trying to build an electric car that's going to be under $30,000.
I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, might be kind of neat. But yeah, I don't know. This is one of those, like, we're talking about inflation, we're talking about all these other economic factors at play. Like it or not, raising wages is going to increase inflation. Maybe not relatively, but it will. And so it's like, it's not like you can just pay people more so they can afford how much more expensive shit's getting. Because when you pay them more, shit's going to get a little bit more expensive because of it over time as it balances out.
I don't think it's always a 1-to-1.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's relative exact. I don't think if we jump to $12 an hour that the thing that people that company's doing are going to jump up.
More money, we can charge you more for it.
But there's going to be some level of it. But I mean, again, I acknowledge that top end corporate heads and stuff like that, and the income, like what was the 70s? I think the 70s was like 10 times, like the average worker.
Yeah.
The CEO or owner of the company
the difference between made
like 10 times. And so like that's one where I have a blind spot for. It's like like Bezos should be the richest man on the planet. Let's be real, he should be.
I think Elon is.
I think he is. You're right. But anyway, he should be one of the richest men on the planet.
Yeah.
Because he is the owner of the largest company on the planet that employs the most people. And it's like, if he only gets $1, if he gets $1 an hour for every employee he has, which is probably underestimated what he makes. But that's a lot. I mean, he's just to employ so many people and stuff like that. You should make a lot of money doing what he's doing. Right. Now, as much as he's making, I don't know. But I don't know I don't know if you could tax or regulate that. I don't know how to regulate that.
Well, those businesses wouldn't accept that whatsoever.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, Bezos and his lobby group would fight that tooth and nail, but...
You can't tell me how much I can pay myself.
Right. But I mean, the really fucked up one, and this is one that, if I'm going to pick of the two, I prefer Elon Musk, but, I mean, Elon does he doesn't get paid. He gets paid in, like, stock and stuff like that, and then he gets loans against his stock, and then that's not taxable income.
So he bought, like, 11% stake into Twitter?
Mm-hmm. But he can go to the bank and go.
I thought there was some big dispute about it. I guess they invited him onto the board, but I thought there was some weird thing that he couldn't be on the board and a majority shareholder.
I don't know. Apparently he's pissed at Twitter, and he's talking about opening or starting his own social media group as well.
Is he?
Been part of this, yeah.
I thought he was talking about adding like an edit function to Twitter and kind of like changing up Twitter.
I don't know.
I think that's what I was reading yesterday. Like Twitter Blue, I guess it's like an actual paid subscription to Twitter.
My understanding of it was that he's pissed at Twitter.
He's trying to like cut ads and some other
he's trying
stuff.
to fuck with them, and he's bought a bunch of Twitter just to fuck with them because he's pissed off at them for whatever.
Yeah. I hadn't heard the malicious side of it.
Big boy games, big boys with too much money games, just like, I don't know.
I mean, a lot of that shit would happen in the past too.
Yeah, sure.
Big oil barons or whatever. They're like, oh, you gonna fuck with me? Like, I'm gonna buy out controlling majority of you, and
right. Or I'll buy I'll buy some asset that you want. I have no need for it, but I'm going to buy that thing up so you can't have it.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you need a bunch of steel? I just happen to have bought most of the steel companies in the U.S. right now. Guess who you're going to have to get your steel from?
Right.
Me.
Dick. Suck it. But yeah, I think, I don't know. Again, going back to the core of it, I don't know how we reinvigorate a middle class in the United States. I think it's the real thing at play. Like, how do we get a middle class income? Because we're a service economy, so I guess theoretically, if we're going to be a service economy, then the service workers should be our new middle class and should be paid as such. Because we used to be a manufacturing economy, and that was the middle class. You could go and work a factory job and buy a home and raise a family, and blah, blah, blah. You can't do that anymore. But I don't know how to construct that. And I don't believe that at least the government as is capable.
I mean, I think just on the average, a lot of jobs have changed. We have different jobs that we didn't have 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
We didn't have these giant IT departments and, media advertising where you have, probably a swath of team that all they do is your social media marketing.
Yeah.
That was not a thing before.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it's fair.
The whole kind of Silicon Valley kind of blow
Well, I mean,
up.
that was the argument against cars. Like, that's why people carriage makers and farriers and, horse breeders and stuff like that didn't want cars. You can't let these things drive on the road. They're dangerous. It's like, well, no, I don't want them on the road because it's going to kill my business. And so they lobbied against it. And the cars, just because of the innovation, made it through. It's not like people that were carriage makers didn't go find other jobs. They just started making car carriages instead of horse carriages. And, horse breeders started going into show horses, or they got into cattle and did, a cattle ranch instead of a horse farm or whatever it was. Right. You just have to adjust with the market that's at play. Right. But
a lot of the manufacturing, some of those jobs have gone just to more efficient,
or
automation,
automated out and stuff like that. But I think that to me is a differentiating factor and something to keep in mind is that of 100-person workforce, when a new industry comes along or a new development comes along that displaces that 100-person workforce, the new development doesn't bring in 100 jobs, at least not 100 jobs that are equal pay. It may bring in 60 jobs. It may bring in 30 jobs that are substantially more pay, but total jobs are going to come down. Probably total average pay is going to come down too, compared to in value, compared to market rates at the time or whatever. So I don't know. It's a weird world we live in.
I mean, there's people that's all they do is focus on this every day and write papers on.
Yeah, and I need some of those people to come talk to me on the show and help me understand things because, I think minimum wage sucks, what it is, but I don't think raising minimum wage helps. Like all the standard solutions that are politically talked about, I don't think are the fixes. That's the problem to me. I don't think a minimum wage fix changes anything. Put minimum wage at $25 an hour, it doesn't really fix anything. For the handful of people that get to keep their jobs at a $25 an hour rate or whatever it is, depending on the job, blah, 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 blah. Sure, it might help them out. But on the whole, I don't think a minimum wage increase changes that. You can't, as the old saying is, you can't legislate morality. If you have an immoral boss.
I'm trying to think. I think it was either Seattle or Portland that started early, like 10, 15 years ago, where they kind of tried out the $15 minimum wage. And I think it might be Seattle that worked out pretty well for them.
I know.
Where it was like, oh, this is going to kill all the business and blah, 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 blah.
Well, I know a number of them moved like right outside the city limits or right outside the county line or whatever.
A lot of businesses did.
Yeah. A lot of like the higher number employee businesses that used to have like a small warehouse factory or whatever in town, they moved it outside of the limit. And so they didn't have to pay it. I'd read a few stories on that. Now to say it as a whole, did it help? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, at least over the last couple of years, Seattle hasn't seemed to be like a cool place that I'd want to be. But, I'm not. I'm not Kyle Rittenhouse, so I don't want to be near riot zones. So,
Seattle rioting right now?
No, is that over the last couple of years? Yeah, they have been. It's a bad Rittenhouse joke. Damn, I was pretty proud of that one. I thought it was good.
But I mean, everyone thought that if they went up $15 an hour, that everything was going to go really expensive, like all across the city. But what happened was people had more disposable income; they were still able to, repatriate that money back into the city.
Yeah, I mean, again,
which only invigorates the market,
right?
You would think,
but
I'm sure I can see it could go either way at times.
Because again, I think too, you got to factor in like how many businesses will that actually affect? Like if we jump to a $10 minimum wage here locally right now, like how many would that really affect? How many places aren't already paying $10 an hour? I mean, fucking
No idea.
Like, I think McDonald's has a sign out front that says 12, starting at 12, or something like that.
I would say starting up to 12.
Right. They're a little skeezy about it. Chick-fil-A's got a 15 out front, shit like that. You know,
Seen that.
You know, and so and we'll see as this transition happens, because I think realistically, what one of the things that could potentially go at play is that these lower end jobs, quote lower end jobs, but the the responsibility jobs, American Beauty, remember that, where Kevin Spacey quits his corporate job and goes and works at he's like, I want the job with as little responsibility as possible. There's appeal to that. I get it.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, when the pay for that starts getting near some of the pay for other work, and so I can go low responsibility and only lose a little bit of income, I might make that jump. And when I do, or people like me do, what does that do to people, to the companies that are in the middle there? Do they start raising pay to keep their staff? Or do they start doing other things to try to keep their profitability the way it is? Because that's another factor at play. And so far, my company's been pretty proactive in it. I still think they're behind the curve, but my company's been proactive in it. As we get an annual like cost of living raise or whatever. But like last summer, I got a bonus. Like I got a raise, not a bonus, but I got a raise. It's just like, hey, you know, we as a company are having a problem hiring, and so we're raising our starting rate. And we're not going to start anybody higher than what you're getting paid, so we're going to raise you respectively. So they raised whatever their starting pay was. They raised it, you know, 75 cents or $1 an hour from what it was originally. And so everybody got $1 raise or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they were raising the starting rate, which I think is the correct way to do it. But I keep pitching to my boss. I'm like, let's really look at this. And my boss doesn't know shit, and it's way above his pay grade. But it's like, you guys, I was like, yes, take this because it's his personal, and this is going to affect me a lot, and this would be good for me as a person. But if you take a second and really look at it, and I've made this argument on a number of different occasions, a number of people, I think over the next couple of years, we're going to see a significant raise in worker wages. Now, what that means against inflation and all that stuff, and whether it comes on the other side as a net zero, whatever. But like, I believe it's going to happen, and I believe that if it's going to happen, you want to be the first one to do it. So go ahead and do it now and eat it and lose a little bit of money or make a little bit less money over the next couple of years. But then you're going to steal the best of the best from our competitors because they're going to get paid significantly more to do the same job with us. Bring them over.
Yeah.
And then eventually our competitors are going to have to catch up, but the good ones are going to be working for us. So they're going to be paying more for less quality than we're paying. Well, we're going to be paying the same, but we're going to be getting higher quality for what we're paying.
Possibly.
So do it now. And, you know, because I want to make more money. I'm trying to get the whole company to change so they pay me
Let's go ahead and
more.
Pay us more. It'll be awesome. It'll help make you guys look great.
I mean, it's the reality. It just is. I think it's the reality. I think I maybe this recession saves corporate businesses from having to do that because there'll be a huge, like, maybe this upcoming recession offsets the help wanted issue right now, because right now everybody's trying to hire and not enough people are coming out to work to fill whether people already have jobs or people aren't working, whatever the reason is that no company can fill all their positions they want right now.
Yeah, I'm still wrapping my head around that. Like,
I don't get it either.
There's such this large,
but it's real, obviously.
I'm wondering if like newer small businesses have started up to where jobs have just kind of been displaced.
I do know
all
that
these other people that lost people are like, hey, where did everybody go?
I do know that I think it was this. Was it this year? Or was it last year? I think last year. January, February filings for new businesses in the state of Tennessee was like a 25-year high.
Yeah.
As a percentage. Like as a raw number, it was the biggest 2 months in history. But as a percentage growth over prior year or something like that, it was a huge jump.
I mean, there's a small availability for being able to work from home, you know, starting your own like soap making business or whatever, where you've got an online website and you're doing it all out of your garage.
Yeah. If I can get more compasses in here and stuff like that, I'm going to retire into this. That's what I want to do. And, you know, we will be filing paperwork here in the next little bit for the studio so I can legally accept funds for my business. because I'm no longer. I can sell this as no longer being a hobby,
Right.
because the IRS considers me a hobby. All right, we're going to cut this one a little bit short. I am going to attack that a little bit of that the Compass teaser on here in a second, so you guys can check that out. I'll put the link to their page in the show notes, and I invite you guys to check them out and tell your friends about them.
And subscribe to them.
They're a way smarter version of what we try to do here. They're way smarter and way more constructed. They use
facts.
Right.
We postulate.
Right. We postulate a lot, but they're right. But I mean, again, Jesse and Scott are combined 50 years of journalism.
Right.
Almost all of that in Knoxville. Jesse spent 5 years with the New York Times, and then came back here. He was the managing editor of the Metro Pulse for the last little stretch. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
That's a good thing.
I mean, the Metro Pulse was a good thing, but the fact that it died on his watch, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I think it died on his watch because Gannett.
It was a free newspaper.
Well, it's like Gannett or whoever. That's when. So that's. I think if I remember correctly.
Well, yeah, I think
it died out with some of the ownership change because Metro Pulse was part of Sentinel.
Yeah,
and so when some of that management change and stuff was happening with New Sentinel and ownership and all the different crap going on is when they phased Metro Pulse out. So I don't think it was a lack of distributorship or even income for that matter. It was this is not part of the strategic plan for Gannett or USA Today now, whoever the new owner was.
I'm trying to remember what it was called. They tried to start it. It was only
Blank.
It was a short lived. Was it Blank?
Blank was one of them. I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was affiliated as
no,
such.
This was it was some of the same people with Metro Pulse, but it was I think they tried to keep it running, but they were trying to do it with half the staff.
Oh, so
it was just kind of in they think they called it something else, but I think it was everybody with Metro Pulse, but tried to keep that same size paper and everything.
It's interesting. I mean, there's a couple of them out there. The Shopper's still around, and there's a couple of small papers that are still local around. Shopper's got one.
I think the Blank is still out. I think I see that.
I think Blank's still floating around. So
I think it's a little bit more of a UT thing.
Yeah, you may be right. I don't know. We don't. I mean, we definitely don't have. I mean, Metropulse to me was an entertainment lifestyle only. It wasn't news per se, unless it was entertainment news or.
They would have some local news in there. Not much. They would focus on one or two stories.
Yeah.
Nothing really hard hitting, but it was, hey, we got this new business. We interviewed the business owner, blah, 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 blah.
Right. But it's usually that business was a restaurant or something in the downtown or.
Some of those.
I mean, usually, I had my recollection of it, when they did stuff that was news or business related, it was related to lifestyle, entertainment, culture stuff going on in Knoxville. It wasn't, it wouldn't be like this Amazon. They wouldn't do a story on this new Amazon plant because that doesn't have anything really to do with, unless they were doing it as this big evil corporate whatever thing's coming in. And I think they're throwing that building up pretty quick, and I think it's going to be interesting when it gets operational. I mean, when they start hiring and stuff like that, it could be. I think it'll be a early success and a long-term problem.
Estimated completion?
I don't know. They're moving quick though. I mean, it's up. The building is up, and they're starting the building is up. They painted it.
Is it Maryville, Alcoa?
Both of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's one each.
Yeah, there's one. Right,
everybody gets one.
I think technically it's Alcoa. I think they say Maryville, but it's Alcoa. It's right there where Pillissippi Parkway 140 runs into Alcoa Highway.
Isn't damn.
You know where the golf course is? You know how you can go past on I-140?
Past Alcoa Highway.
Right, past Alcoa Highway, and there's the golf course, and it ends over there a mile past that.
Near Clayton Homes.
Yeah, so when you go under the Alcoa Bridge, if you're going, I guess it's east on I-140, you go under the Alcoa Bridge, it's literally the intersection of Alcoa Highway and 140. And it's on that northeast side of that cross. And it's a big old building. So is the Easttown one for that matter. But the Easttown one's up too, and I drove by it yesterday or Friday.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
It looks like they're going to start paving in the next couple of weeks, paving the parking lot. The building's up, the doors are on, all the different, all that stuff. So the building is now sealed, and so I'm assuming once they get the parking lot in, they'll start bringing in the shelving units and all the electronic stuff. So I would say that as I understand Amazon's warehouse, the electricians are going to be there for a while. There's a lot of wiring.
Fiber optic.
There's a lot of wiring and cabling and stuff to put in there, and all the different sensors and that kind of jazz. But Yeah, that's it. I think that's it for this week, unless you got something.
No.
All right, so stick around for just a second. We'll do check out the Compass little insert thing, and we appreciate everybody stopping in.
Hello, welcome to Compass Points, the weekly podcast of CompassKnox.com. Hi, I'm Jesse Mayshark. I'm co-founder of Compass, and I cover Knox County government, school board, business, and state government for Compass at CompassKnox.com.
Hi, I'm Scott Barker, co-founder of Compass. I cover city government, including city council, the University of Tennessee, the Planning Commission, and business development for Compass. That's CompassKnox.com.
We'd love to hear any feedback or thoughts that anyone has on the podcast. You can write us at CompassKnox@gmail.com. And of course, you can find all of our content on our website at CompassKnox.com, including subscription information. This week, we're going to...
All right, thanks for Sam for coming over for a day show. Thanks for checking out the Compass thing. But like I said, go to their CompassKnox.com and subscribe to their actual paper. Pay for it. It's good quality stuff. It's worth the money. But short of that, go and subscribe to either the YouTube channel or one of the podcast providers that has the new Compass Points podcast on it. Those are going to come out weekly every Sunday morning. Those will be out, and we're going to get better at it over time. We're going to practice at it. Jesse and Scott get more comfortable with the format, as well as I get better at my part, so that they can put a better, more professional show with more information out for you guys. So we're going to keep working on it. We're going to keep doing what we do, and we appreciate you guys for sticking around for us. We're Almost in Agreement, almostinagreement@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to our website, almostinagreement.com. That's got the Election Guide 22. Election Guide 22 is going to get you all the races, who's running in them, what district they're in, links to their website, links to my interviews with them if I've had them, and links to KGIS and Knox County Election Commission, so you can check your registration status as well as your voting location, what district you're in, all that kind of cool, important stuff. So check all that out. Get to know your candidates. Early voting starts this week. Thanks, everybody.